Hello, hello.
Hi, Tyler.
Hey, Ronnie, how's it going?
Going well. Come here.
Oh, I'd have my puppy on the call, but it would probably be easier to do it from in here and let him chill
Yes,
out.
he is roaming around right now.
So I just got my puppy yesterday.
Aw, how old?
He is 8 weeks
Ooh, real young.
and he's transitioned well. He's doing pretty good.
Okay.
A lot of people coming over to see him throughout the workday, so that's fun. Um, but I'm probably gonna come in and there's gonna be poop everywhere, and well, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
What? What's up? She wants a tank train.
Mm.
Give me a second.
And then I'm gonna figure out how to share the screen. Um. Oh, that's not what I want. Hmm. Share screen. Computer sound. No. Okay. I assume this is working. Does that show up for everyone? Okay, cool. I'll drag this here. Perfect. We'll probably wait till about 4:03 before we get started, just so if we have stragglers and whatnot. But otherwise, at the moment, it'll just be like a little 3-on-1 with Micah here. Do a last little push. I'll post in those couple popular Facebook groups. Just so if people are just browsing through social media and they're like, oh, hey, I should join this. Or actually, I wonder if I can filter. That'll take too long. All right. Well, I guess for the time being, we'll go ahead and get started. There might be some people that kind of pick up a little bit later on. I know quite a few people said they can't make this time, so they're just going to go back and watch the recording retroactively. And also, if I'm looking down, I'm dual screened, and so my webcam's like on the wrong computer, and it's all funky. But don't worry about it too much. To kick us off, we just kind of want to go around, talk a little bit about who we are, because I didn't even introduce myself, how you heard about the ambassador program, what interests you about becoming an ambassador, and kind of for our current and potentially outgoing ones, what kind of interested them, what sort of professional development they looked for in the program, what they kind of got out of it, and what involvement do you have on your current campus. So I'm Tyler Bradley. I use they, them, or he, his pronouns. I currently work as a residence director at Montana State University Billings. I originally heard about the ambassador programs at the 2017 ACPA convention. Went to the info session there and became really interested in doing it. So I applied, threw my hat in the ring, and then wound up seeing that there were some coordinator positions open. After doing the summer program, applied for that, wound up being the social media coordinator for the year, and this is kind of where I am now. I was really interested in it for the networking component because I'm at a very smaller institution. So I wanted to make sure that I'm still making a lot of connections in the higher ed field, despite being in a smaller school. And then also just people to talk about current events and trends in higher ed, and things like that. So whoever wants to go next in introducing themselves.
I can go. Hello, you guys hear me? Okay.
Yep.
So my name's Christy. I am at Kent State University. I'm a graduate student here, and I'm actually graduating in 2 weeks. That's awesome. So I'm in the job search process, but currently for the next 2 weeks, I'm the graduate assistant for advising and undergraduate initiatives in the Department of Psychological Sciences undergraduate advising office. I heard about the ambassador program. I actually got a mass email, the listserv for my graduate program. The faculty send a whole bunch of emails all the time, and they sent this one out like, oh, this may be of interest to people. And I saw that, I applied, and I got accepted into the program. The biggest thing that interested me is, first of all, the professional development opportunity, being able to connect with other student affairs professionals all across the country was a big thing for me, helping me to get outside of just Northeast Ohio. Another thing for that, just learning more about the field of student affairs. Like we talk about like professional competencies, we talk about like current events, the racial justice imperative. It's all a lot of things that any student affairs professional could benefit from. What other areas of professional development am I looking for? I was unfortunately unable to attend convention this year, but I'm hoping to be able to attend next year. Again, just the opportunity to be able to network with people all across the country from multiple different functional areas of student affairs as well. I have come from an advising background, being able to learn about what other people are doing at their institutions and within their own functional areas is also a big interest of mine. And I'm involved in my campus. So beyond my graduate assistantship, I've interned with like resident services. I've interned with career exploration and development. I'm a hearing officer on campus. I'm actually part of a mentorship program for both, and I'm part of the CASADA, which is our academic advising association at Kent State. That's me.
Hello, my name is Ronnie Bingen. I use he, him, his pronouns, and I'm a residence director at Ithaca College. So how did I hear about the ambassadors program? So I first heard about the ambassadors program at the 2017 ACPA convention. And then there was a mass email that went out at my current institution through our student affairs and campus life division. But like, hey, here's a cool opportunity for new professionals. So I applied, ended up getting into the program. I think what interested me, along with what areas of professional development I'm looking for, is I wanted to figure out how I can get more involved into like a professional organization, how I can build connections, build my network, learn from a lot of different types of people, see how things are happening differently across campus. If you hear whining, that's my puppy who's crated right now, just so she don't tear up my apartment. And yeah, so that's why I was interested in being an ambassador, and that's a little bit about what I'm looking for into professional development, how I continue to learn and grow as I decide to move up in the field over the next few years. And then how am I involved in campus? So outside of my position as a residence director, I also advise a student organization on campus. I sit on different committees, lots of committees this year, more so than any other residence director on campus right now. So that's a couple ways I'm involved on campus.
Would you like to introduce yourself, Micah? Go ahead.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Micah Hodges, and I use he, him, his pronouns. I graduated from James Madison University, my undergraduate in 2016, and I'm currently taking a gap year right now as a substitute teacher in the public school system. This fall, I'm actually going to be returning back to James Madison University, getting my Master's of Education in College Student Personnel Administration, and my first assistantship will be in the Duke's Center for Leadership. Duke's Leadership Center at James Madison University. So I'm really excited about that. I heard about the ambassador program through a number of different means through Facebook. I saw a number of people that I talked to and saw that they were a part of the ambassador program on their profiles, and I was interested. What is it all about? I'm interested to see, and I'm interested in getting involved in a professional organization to network and to understand more about this profession, because I think honestly, when it comes to learning, the best kind of learning is through understanding through other people's eyes and other people's perspectives, and just really getting to know the profession in a different way. And in terms of what I'm looking for, this is all going to be new to me, and I'm learning all about this for the very first time. So really and truly, I have a lot of little different ideas of how to how to advance the profession, what can be done to sort of push it forward, especially from a global perspective, because student affairs is now becoming a global, it's now becoming a more global profession than we realize. And so, thinking of ways to sort of advance that. And so I have ideas in terms of how I can bring that to the program, but also to really bring my home institution, James Madison, up on the map, and really show that they have a voice into the profession as well. And in terms of how I'm involved on campus, to be determined. So there's a lot of things that I have on my plate in terms of what I want to do. But at the moment, it's sort of up in the air at this point.
Okay, awesome. So Ronnie and Christy are both current ambassadors. Are either of you two applying for next year too?
I already did.
Oh,
So.
awesome.
Application is in the works for me.
So you could potentially have one of them in your cluster next in the summer or fall. But a little bit about ACPA, because it kind of makes sense to how ambassadors fits into the whole picture of things. So ACPA has dozens of committees, coalitions, and communities of practice. I feel like there's a bunch of other C words. They all tend to start with a C, and I don't really understand where that comes from because they all kind of jumble in my head because of that. But the ambassadors fit within the community of practice for graduate students and new professionals. So anybody who's really in between that 1 and 5 year window, we kind of capture them and get together with them. And we have a lot of different opportunities that the ambassador program collaborates with that community of practice, but we're also a little bit, to an extent, a standalone thing from them, because they do a lot of other things. Like they have their own blog, they do their own sort of like professional development series and a lot of things from that. But outside of that, there's a bunch of communities of practice commissions that we also kind of work with from time to time. Like there's ones for housing and residence life officers. There's one for men and masculinities. There's gosh, I'm going to stumble on it, but because they just changed their name, but I think it's the Gender and Sexualities Commission. But they do the cabaret at each convention, and they host like a giant drag show, which is tons of fun. And there's just things upon things upon things that get people networked, and different initiatives that happen within ACPA as an organization. But with that, I will turn it over. I forgot who took what, but we want to talk about what an ambassador is.
Okay, that's me, right? I think. Okay, so I'll go from there. So what is an ambassador? So before I was about what's happening in ACPA, essentially as an ACPA ambassador, you are a liaison between ACPA and your own institution as well as other institutions. So I know, for example, me personally, I would keep people within like my graduate program updated on things that are going on in ACPA, encourage them to attend some of the webinars, and I'm encouraging some of them to apply to be an ACPA ambassador. So keeping them updated on what's going on in the organization. Get involved with the professional organization. Before I was an ACPA ambassador, I was not really involved with ACPA as an organization much at all. By becoming an ambassador, it's helped me become more involved overall with, again, the professional development aspect of everything, the competencies, the professional competencies, which are important as you're becoming a professional in the field to know and actually to practice by, essentially, within the field. As we talked about before, you get the opportunity to network with other professionals across the country. This especially occurs when you're at convention, which of course I wasn't able to go to this year, but I hope to next year. Beyond that, when you're an ACPA ambassador, there's the grander scope of all the ACPA ambassadors, and you meet with every ambassador via a call every month. And you also, no, not every month, it's like every so often. But then you have smaller clusters where essentially there's like 9 or 10 people within your cluster, and you guys meet every month, kind of like doing this call that we're doing now. You guys meet and you kind of give updates on your institutions, give updates on where you are within your field. We did the racial justice imperative this year, so. And then you serve as a representative. You're a representative of the organization, and kind of like all the other things that I mentioned. Your people within your institution, you're an ACPA ambassador to them. So essentially you're a representative of the organization for other people at your institution. So, and yeah, that's that. So.
Yeah, I'll also add to it a little bit that the curriculum changes a little bit each year. So it is something that people can do multiple years. But usually institutional updates, things like that, those are kind of at the core of it. But usually during like all calls, I'll just kind of like trends and higher ed topics. Like they'll bring in guest speakers who either serve on higher entities within ACPA. So we had Jamie Washington. He's the current president of ACPA come in for a call. That was really fun. He had a lot of insight. Also, just like we did a self-care activity where we got to do a basically self-care assessment, which was very unique. And I actually took that and did that with our staff. And generally, the ones that we thought had a lot of compassion fatigue had a lot of compassion fatigue. But it was really cool to kind of quantify it. All sorts of things like that. So we'll go over to some benefits of being an ambassador. I think that's Ronnie, maybe.
That's still Christy.
Yeah, that's still me.
Okay, I don't have the email pulled
up. So benefits of being an ambassador, pathways to leadership. So essentially, well, first of all, besides being a representative of the organization, there's a lot of leadership opportunities within ACPA. We have our like graduate and student affairs professionals. What's that called exactly, Tyler? They're like that smaller organization within ACPA.
The Graduate Student and New Professionals Community of Practice.
Yeah, yes. It's a really long name. We have the opportunity to be a part of that. As you can see with what Tyler's doing, he's actually one of the coordinators for ACPA, and he specifically works with like the social media aspect of things. So you have the opportunity to apply to be one of those coordinators as well. You get presentation experience, essentially I mean, at convention you see a lot of presentations, but actually doing presentations as well. What's nice is we also have a Facebook page that I didn't mention, where essentially if there's anything going on in like your institution, or there's anything in like other organizations that you're a part of that you want to advertise to other people within ACPA, you have the opportunity to put that on the Facebook page. I know someone in our cluster, Rasha, was very involved with the case study competition that there was. So again, networking, I feel like we've gone over that quite a lot, but again, you have the opportunity to network with other student affairs professionals all across the country. It's a good way to learn about what's going on at other institutions, learn about different functional areas and professional development. I feel like we've talked about that a lot as well, but again, the professional development aspect is part of the networking aspect, where you have the opportunity to talk to other people within the field all across the country. So is there anything else to add, Tyler?
I think that's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Curriculum.
Yeah, so now this is me. So every ambassador, there were a lot of well over 100 ambassadors this year. And as Christy mentioned, that each ambassador group is placed in a cluster, and each cluster has a coordinator who serves on the directorate of the ACPA ambassadors. And you have a monthly cluster call, and different cluster coordinators run their clusters a little bit differently, but there is a curriculum that goes into it. So I know there was one cluster that did kind of like speed dates with each person in the cluster. So you got to get to know someone very closely individually. You get to give those updates, and really it's kind of like your small little family cohort group within the larger ACPA ambassador group. So you have those monthly calls with the coordinator, and each one has like a theme or a topic area that you want to focus on. The different projects and opportunities that you can work on, like Rasha did the case study competition, which is really cool. Webinars like this one is a really cool opportunity for you to work on and collaborate on. There are different social media aspects. So ACPA, the ambassadors, has a lot of social media, a Facebook page. There is a Snapchat group, an Instagram. So one of the things that happened this year was thank a mentor. So like you were able to submit a little blurb and a photo of you and a mentor just as a way to publicly thank them. That was a cool opportunity to do. And then I know Tyler did like fun facts about each institution that an ACPA ambassador represents. That's a cool way to like get involved. And there's like, I know my institution was more of a trivia thing to see if you knew your institution history. And then throughout ACPA, there's the strategic imperative for racial justice and decolonization. So a lot of so that fits into like the different themes and aspects of each monthly cluster call. Like cluster call and all calls, there was an aspect of the strategic imperative that you talk about. So there may be articles or videos that you were asked to watch. I know one of the videos that was used was the trailer for the documentary 13. Which was really cool documentary if you haven't seen it. Just talk about, and we were able to have conversation around that documentary and how it fit into the strategic imperative, and then how it also impacted our roles within student affairs.
Awesome.
All right. So just want to give a year in review. So this past year, they resurrected the spring cohort. So a lot of people would start in the fall and then continue to the spring. But they actually resurrected a spring cohort. I think the last spring cohort was a few years back. With our current chair of the graduate and graduate student new professionals community of practice, and then our vice chair, Eric, they were in the spring cohort beforehand. There was a first ever summer cohort. So Tyler was a part of the summer cohort last summer and bringing it back again this year for this summer. So that's an opportunity. We got very early communication about convention. So we got to talk about it, a little bit more about what was convention going to look like, what, 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 what some different opportunities we'll have at convention. Another cool opportunity is if you are an ambassador, there are like convention waivers that you can apply for and things like that. So that's a really cool opportunity with that, but we knew some things that were going to happen beforehand. So every year there is a curriculum within the ACPA ambassador's role and community. So this year they updated the curriculum to really include the strategic imperative for racial justice and decolonization so that we were continuously talking about it. Because it's easy to say this is something we're going to talk about for like just at convention, but it was built in to where we were constantly talking about it in our monthly all calls and our cluster calls. So it was something that we can continue to really start to implement into our practice. There was the first ever ACPA Ambassador Reunion social that happened during convention this year. It was super fun. It was welcoming for current ambassadors, former ambassadors. It was like a good time to just connect and do some more networking. We started using Zoom for cluster calls. So same way we do it, because you can have a lot of people in a Zoom call.
You get to see their face.
Yeah, you can see their faces. You can do it from your phone, a webcam, computer. So really cool entity, and there isn't like really a limit on how many people you can have. So Zoom, stronger social media presence. As I said, there's the Facebook group, there's a Snapchat, there's Instagram, Twitter, all the different social media ways that you can connect and be involved with it. Webinars similar to this one. There was one that was just called Spill the Tea. That was a cool one. Stuff on job search. So those are different things. And we as ambassadors, get to have some input about what the webinars should be on as part of like participate in them. And then there were over 120 plus ambassadors with over 100 institutions represented just this past year. So a lot of schools all over the country.
I think what really is unique too is like being, especially with the institutional updates, hearing what sort of things are happening at their institution that are similar to your experiences. Because a lot of times you might think you're all out on your own, but you're really not. And it's nice to see how other institutions are treating something similar and their actions and whatnot. But before we open it to whatever questions you have for us, the link to apply is this kind of little short URL. Hopefully it still works. I was going to test it before the call, but if not, we can get a link out there and whatnot. But it's just tiny.cc/ambassadors1819. And they kind of revised it a little bit so that people applying for the summer cohort, and you can really just apply for whichever one in that application, but the summer one's meant for people who are brand new to the experience. So you'd be put in a cluster with not a lot of people who've been really returning ambassadors. So it's kind of more about ACPA as an organization, learning what the community of practice does, the ambassador program does, kind of prep work for the fall. Then fall is when it kind of merges into the full swing of things with returning ambassadors. Might see some things about Careers and Student Affairs Month, things like that. I don't know if there's a real firm deadline on applications because I haven't opened up the application in forever, but definitely apply. It's super fun. Is there any questions you had for us or anything like that?
Yes, I do have some questions for you all. So the first thing, especially because I'll be coming in as a new graduate student in the fall, I was wondering, especially for those who have done the program whilst in grad school, how does time management work out in a sense? So balancing commitments as an ambassador and then also commitments with having a graduate assistantship and also graduate classes as well.
I want to say something. It's a pretty simple time commitment. The biggest thing that you're supposed to be present for are the 2 calls every month. So the cluster call and then the all call that we have. Beyond that, we have like our essay chats that we have on Twitter. But those, I mean, it's not like you have to do those every week or anything. So it's a pretty manageable time commitment. Then we also have like optional webinars, but again, that's not something that you have to attend. So the biggest thing that you're supposed to attend are the calls. Convention's also a big thing if you're able to attend convention, but again, that's once a year. So I say with me being a graduate student this year and doing this, it was definitely very manageable when it comes to time.
Also add in too, for as a coordinator, we understand, especially with graduate students, some of our calls aren't going to work with everyone. There's probably about 12 or 13 people in our cluster, and any given time that you pick, there's probably less than half that can meet, because either they're on duty and have incidents they're responding to, they've got class, they're at work. Some of them was treating it as like professional development within their work opportunity, so they would only really engage in the master program while doing work hours. The times and things kind of vary, and we're very understanding as long as that communication is open and whatnot, because grad school is a lot of work, and we want to be able to respect that and give that space. What other questions you got for us?
Of course. Yes. So one of the other things that I was really interested in, and I think that initially when I was thinking about it, I had mentioned ideas that I had, and one of the ideas that I had was sort of kind of getting this really cool project, kind of like a student affairs exchange program. Basically what happens is that one school, like one student affairs program, interacts with another student affairs program. They literally exchange by going to each other's campuses for an extended period of time and learning about what happens on each other's campuses. And I was wondering, would that kind of idea have any place sort of as an ambassador in terms of networking and stuff like that?
I think that has a lot of possibility. I know there's quite a few ambassadors who've expressed that they want to be able to do meetups with other ambassadors throughout the year, maybe convene at other people's host institutions or even somewhere in the middle, and just really share how things are done there. There's really no real particular rhyme or reason how clusters are divided up, because you have people in different time zones. You've got different regional areas. I'm like probably one of the few people out west, out in Montana. There's a couple in Oklahoma and whatnot, and I think there's a couple ambassadors maybe on the West Coast. But so being in the West, it's kind of hard a little bit for different exchanges and meetups, just driving distance. But a lot of them do come from out east. So I think that's something probably a little bit reasonable, depending how people's class and workloads are. I think that's something that people would be interested in.
Yeah, and if I remember at convention, there actually was a group, a small group that actually did have a meetup because they were within closer proximity to each other. So they got to know people, actually put physical features and aspects outside of just the cluster calls to a person.
All right, what else you got for us?
Let's see. And I would say, I guess at least one last question I would have for you all. Let me see, what's probably the biggest thing that you've taken away from the experience as an ACPA ambassador? What's kind of like one thing you'll take away, like especially after you're done your time?
Start. So one of the biggest things that I've taken away, I just think for me, just having the opportunity to interact with other people in the field is a big thing for me. I like to go beyond my own university and see what other universities are doing. I like to see what other people are doing within their functional areas, and just by having these monthly meetups on Zoom gives me the opportunity to do that. I look forward to having our cluster calls every month just to see what else is going on everywhere else. I mean, I'm the kind of person to engage with like different like student affairs professional boards on Facebook and everything, and that's just how I stay updated within the field. And I think that's one of the biggest professional development aspect, essentially. for me, because any opportunity to grow within the field is a good opportunity for me.
Yeah, for me, it was a mixture of the professional development opportunities of learning about the different institutions, what we do, but also the networking that happened was really good. Big, like I got to go to convention this year because it was in Houston, where my family. So part of that was the ambassador group became my convention crew. Like I was almost always with the ambassadors in some way, shape, or form, going to different sessions, going to different, going out to like lunches and dinners. So it's kind of that we built this network and we built this connection that I'm going to have for years to come. Tyler, you muted yourself.
Shoot. Okay. So for me, the biggest thing was probably learning how to navigate convention and make the most of the experience. Since I had gone in 2017, I was by myself, only one from my institution. Didn't really know a lot of people there. So I just kind of went through how I knew how to do conventions. And my next year, through being in the ambassador program, I learned of so many different things that I didn't even realize were happening. So because of the ambassador program, I learned there was a way to get free books at the Marketplace Exchange. There was a different, basically, community practice meetings that you could attend because they were open to general membership of ACPA. Just being able to network and go to these different events that are happening even just after the workshops are done for the day, and having that group of people that you are already familiar with to go with, because being from a small school, there's really not anybody else from my institution going to these big conventions. So it was definitely helpful to have that program to bounce off of that. But just in general, too, I've really appreciated being able to have those discussions, especially around the strategic imperative. And it kind of goes back to being in a small school again. Sometimes it's a little bit harder to engage other administrators in these conversations because some of them are a little bit more in their cultural silos. But being with other people who understand like the foundational documents of our field and why that's important, I think that is extremely helpful in engaging in those conversations and helping inform my practice more and whatnot. But since Zoom does this weird feature where we only get 40 minutes to record the call, so we've got 2 minutes remaining. So if you have any other last kind of quick questions, we can maybe get that in.
I think that's all. Those are all the questions that I have for now.
Okay, awesome. So for anybody who winds up watching this on the recording, or if you, Michael, wind up having questions down the road, I should have put my email in the PowerPoint slide itself, but they can feel free to email me at tyler.bradley@msubillings.edu. And then I don't know if either of you want to share your contact info if people have questions.
Sure. My contact info is, it's KKamis, so KKAMIS @kent.edu.
And mine is rbenion, RBENION @ithaca.edu.
All right. Awesome. So thank you again for coming and learning more about the ambassador program, and we hopefully look forward to having your application in soon.
Righty. Thank you all.
All right. Have a good night, everyone.
Good night.